Okay, Michelle. The summer continues to get hotter, but this one's like a little bit more Pacific Northwest. We're feeling a little chillier.
We got some fog.
Um, so for all of you who are not watching this on YouTube, Michelle has graced us with dressing up like Mama Fratelli. She absolutely nailed it out of the park when she texted me today and said, Laura, I can't wait for my outfit for this episode. This was the last character that I was guessing that you would dress up as because you have no correlation with her.
Yeah, but this is the easiest one.
Yeah.
Uh,
And I am dressed up like Mikey in a full denim outfit, which is something I already wear, and also I'm the main character in every story, so it
That's
just makes
true.
sense.
That's true. It's like it's Mikey or like any Gen Z in 2023 slash young millennial.
Yeah, I was not about to commit with his haircut though,
No. Or the braces.
or the braces. Oh, I'm just so excited about this
I'm
one.
excited too. I feel like this is gonna be a happy turn from the last 2 weeks where I felt like I mean, I still don't feel like I know what I'm talking about with this one, but at least it's gonna be a little more upbeat.
Yes, a little bit more upbeat, definitely a lot similar in the fact that I feel like there's a lot of things that I don't know about piracy and anything really about that time period. But,
I
it's
love
one of those things you only need to know like so much about the background to get it. So
I love that you
I think
refer to it as piracy. I associate that with, more of like a modern day crime, but like,
like
when you're
LimeWire.
yeah, but when you're thinking
Yeah,
about like, the high seas and buried treasure, like is that piracy? I think so.
I think that's piracy. We need a we need a dictionary on this podcast.
Among other
Among
tools.
Once we have budget, we will immediately invest in a fact checker slash dictionary
Yes.
dictionary expert. So Michelle, what did we think? I've never really talked to you about this movie ever, so I'm so excited.
Another odd pick. I mean, I know that we're calling this Summer of Spielberg, but we should really call this like movies that we have no connection to, minus one of them. For this rewatch, I had seen this movie one other time, and it was like a pandemic watch, so pretty recently. I feel like my generation, kids my age, have a deep connection to this movie. And just like I said about Jurassic Park, I feel kind of jealous that I did not get to experience this movie as a kid or at least a teen because the first time I watched it, I thought this is a great movie, but didn't really give it another thought after that. But after rewatching it, I would love to continue to watch it more. I know I'm late to the game, but I think this is a great rewatchable film. I can see why kids bonded over this. I can see why it's so beloved among 80s kids. And yeah, I have a lot of good things to say about this movie. How about you? What's your background? Do you have more of a history than I do?
I do. I have a really special connection to this film because our aunt, who's kind of like the cool aunt, this was one of her favorite movies. And growing up, I think I probably watched this in elementary school, but this was a movie that we repeat watched every time I would go over to my cousin's house to have sleepovers. And it's funny because this movie obviously came out long before I was born, but it had such a special place for me in my adolescent years. And it was a movie that my cousins and I continue to bond over, end quote. And Michelle's shaking her head like,
I'm
this is a brand new information for me.
I am so confused by all of this. I have to assume we're talking about Aunt Amanda, who
Yeah.
sadly is no longer with us, but I have so many memories of watching movies with Aunt Amanda. I mean, she's the only reason I have any interest in Star Wars is because of her. Also, Disney movies. I don't remember ever watching Goonies with her or it being brought up in any capacity. So this
Oh,
must have
she
been like,
loved this movie. All of my memories of watching this, I just have memories of her in my head, like like laughing at certain scenes of her, or being like really like giddy at more of like the heartfelt scenes. So yeah, this one is just very special to me. If we had we definitely should have included Erica on this one because she would have a lot to say, but I'm excited for her to listen to this in the aftermath. But throughout like middle school and high school, this is also a movie that we would quote all the time and like just bond with each other over. So definitely has a closer to home connection for me.
Now I'm even more jealous. And I can like, I can still hear her laugh.
Yeah.
And just, she was just so, joyful and almost, I would say like childlike when it came to liking movies. And I think it has been one of the saddest things that she passed before. Really, I mean, she was one of like the first people I feel like that introduced me to like the internet, and she was like so hip when it came to that sort of thing. But she passed kind of like before like podcasts and YouTube kind of like became big. And I can say this with 100% certainty. She would have had her own podcast well before we did on many interesting topics. She was just an extremely interesting person. So we'll dedicate this episode to her.
I love that.
That's so special. And then any Star Wars related episode that we do in the future will also be dedicated to her.
And again, I've seen this so many times. It's definitely a rewatch movie for me on whenever it was on TV, when I get home from school, and I would just watch it. But I think watching it alone last night, it was so fun. I just had such a good time with it. And I love that it's a movie that still continues to hold up and bring me joy every time I watch it. I'm not going to have too many bad notes for this one. I'm more so just excited. Especially excited that this is only like your second time watching it, because you're viewing it with kind of fresh eyes. And I think especially being born in the 80s, like you said, you have a little bit more of an actual connection to it, like the music, the styles, some of the heartthrob characters. So it's going to be great.
We also, before we move on, while we've never watched this movie together, we don't really have a connection of watching this together. We have had another significant member of our family who has a huge connection to this movie. Laura, do you want to set this up?
So, growing up, we had a big orange cat named Chunk, and he was the best. So, I feel like Michelle sent me a text the other day with a picture of Chunk and a picture of Chunk and myself while I was eating breakfast. I had very messy hair, and we were enjoying a bowl of cereal together. And at first, when Michelle was like, we have to resurface this for the next podcast episode, it was not connecting with me. Maybe we were just texting me on an off day. But I don't know too many Chunks in life.
And maybe you didn't know this, and maybe this is why you're like, this is not that big of a connection.
He was actually named after Chunk.
He was actually named after Chunk. We had another little cat when I was 10 and when Laura was a baby. She sadly was only with us for a year. She got hit by a car, and
I had no idea.
Okay. Family secrets are being revealed.
This is so classic. Our family doesn't talk about freaking anything. It's really.
You didn't know that our
we only had her for a year?
Yeah. You didn't know that she got hit by a car? What did you think happened to her?
I don't know. I thought that she was like older. I mean, also if I was an infant, I just always have memories of Chunk. So like LaBertha and all my photos, I was like, oh, she just like passed on because.
Yeah, we only had her for like a year.
Wow.
Yeah, she was little.
Oh my gosh,
anyway, it was very, very upsetting when that kitty passed away. And right around that time, our oldest cousin, Alessandra, was in college, and someone had either given her or she adopted this little orange kitten. And when she came home for the semester, she was like, I can't, really bring him back. And, our aunt and uncle, her parents are, they're very animal friendly, but for whatever reason, maybe it was just because we had lost LaBertha the kitty, our family adopted Chunk when he was, not like quite kitten, but still young. But Alessandra named him after Chunk from the Goonies.
I did not know this. I mean, it makes sense 'cause she was an 80s kid. I thought that his name was just Chunk. He looks like a chunk. Like when you see him, he's a chunk. He was a great cat.
He was. He was a fantastic
He was
cat.
great.
Lived a long
Oh,
life.
he did.
Wow. So
So much brand new information on this episode. Really just unleashing it all.
I don't know.
Wow.
We're like really getting to know each other.
I know. Wow. Are we even related? Did we grow up in the same house or not really, kind of?
Yeah, I know that the 10-year divide is
I know. A lot
it's
happened,
very
we guess.
strong.
Yeah. Okay, Michelle. So as a semi-new viewer to this movie, what did we love?
I love the 80s-ness of this movie. I often talk about how much I hate the 80s when it comes to style. I'm very drawn to like mid-century style, really anything from, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. After that, I feel like things start to get dicey. Everyone starts to get a little messy. And the 80s to me are kind of just like the epitome of just like the least aesthetically possible choices. However, it is the decade I was born in, and I can't help but to like have a connection and nostalgia toward it, even though it is truly terrible. So the music, the Cyndi Lauper, the outfits, the hair, the Martha Plimpton's characters like awful glasses, which I feel like are back in style again. Yeah, it's like it's all so cringy but so like comforting at the same time.
Very nostalgic. Loving the varsity jacket inclusion as well. Yeah, it's such a decade that's foreign to me. Like I really don't have any connection to it, but it's so interwoven into so many films that it feels very close home. And also because I grew up watching this movie, I feel like I got a taste of it all.
Second to that, I love all of the kids. I think that the cast of this movie is fantastic, especially knowing that most of them like grew into being stars, most of which who are still acting. But thinking about watching this movie as a kid, I can just knowing myself, I would have been like obsessed with this crew. That this group of kids would have been the thing that made me want to watch this movie over and over again had I been introduced to it as a kid. I've mentioned this in earlier episodes, I'm sure. I mean, I'm very much a like, inside library movies, like not really. I would never go on an adventure like this. But
Too messy.
it's too messy, too much, dirt,
Too much danger.
too much danger, but it's the kind of thing that I enjoy watching from afar. And it's, that I mean, obviously like that's what makes movies so great is that we get to go on these adventures without actually going on them. What did you think about this group of kids? Did you, I mean, since you did actually get to watch this as a kid, did this make you want to have adventures?
Yeah, I feel like of the bunch of us, I definitely am the most adventurous.
Yeah.
So I could, but at the same time, I wasn't like just of the four of us, I would say it was a little bit more open. I had a big imagination when I was little, so I could see myself, even if I wasn't physically going and trying to find a pirate ship, would make this up and turn it into a game. So I think maybe that's subconsciously why I had a deeper connection to it. But for this group of kids, I think with these movies, it can go one or of either way. It could end up being completely fall flat because if you don't find a group of child actors that is great but also has good chemistry with each other, it just doesn't work. And this movie works. Like you are totally transported into their world as soon as each of them start to show up at the Walsh's house. So you're really almost thrown in, like you feel like you're a fly on the wall as part of this crew. And I think what makes it even more special is that Steph and Andy end up joining as well because they weren't really needed, but at the same time I do think that they added a lot to the story and it kind of rounded out two different groups, like kids who are kind of on the brink of puberty years and, but still have like their childhood innocence. And then you have Brand, who's coming into his own as like an adult. He's talking about how he just failed his driver's, license. So it's very cool to kind of see these two age groups come together and be friends with each other. But I think it all comes down to how well the acting is in this movie. And again, it's the chemistry. You just feel like they're a group of friends who show up at each other's house every day. They are riding their bikes around town, waving to, their dad who works at the museum. It just feels very organic. And I don't always think that works in every movie. But on a personal note, yeah, I would love to be a part of this crew. I think I would be a little bit more nervous, like Chunk, and hopefully I wouldn't have been the one who was left out with, putting my hand on inside of a blender. I'd rather actually be under the caves, but it's so great. And it still holds up. Like
It does.
the excitement and joy that I feel and being a part of this group as a kid, I still get giddy when I watch it as an adult.
And it feels so authentic, like the interactions between them, the way that they talk and the way that they talk over each other. When this movie first starts and they're just, kind of hanging out in the Walsh's house, and this is our introduction to all of them, I got a little like overwhelmed. But I think that that's how kids are, and that's how kids talk. And it's, almost like and they have no problem with it. They understand each other. It's like part of their, kind of secret language. And, I'm sure that's also paired with the fact that they're just like, they're wild kids and they're running around the house. Mouth is telling Rosalita like the wrong the wrong translations of things, and I'm like, no, I'm like, she's gonna get in trouble. But like, yeah, it felt very true to who those kids would have been, and to kids at that age. And like you said, it held up, like kids at that age in 1985 and kids at that age today.
I was on the tail end of the age group that could like still, ride bikes around town or walk everywhere, and it was fine. And you were kind of always like bouncing around. I think we've lost that a little bit in our digital age. So it definitely brings up feelings of nostalgia, just hanging around with the neighborhood kids. But I think beyond this, with this group, I like that you bring up the opening scene, which again can be a little bit overwhelming because you're kind of bouncing back between all of their dialogue. But I think that's what works so well. Like you said, it's their own secret language. And I think the thing that's so special about creating these types of characters is creating inside jokes with them that are carried throughout the whole movie and kind of placing them as like, oh, the klutz or the wise guy or the sweet one who's like the leader, and then the scientist, and they're kind of immediately all introduced and given personas to carry throughout the whole movie. I really think it's great script writing and great character development. It's not lazy writing. It's very establishing who they are and then making sure there's a through line throughout every single scene and being very thoughtful about it. Mouth, I think, is one of my favorite character introductions because when we first meet him, he's like helping his dad with the sink, but he's kind of being a wise ass. And then when he goes over to the Walsh's house, I die laughing every time that he starts doing like a Rocky impression. They're like, oh, it's Mouth. Like he does this all the time. And then, transitioning into him talking to Rosalita, saying that she's going to get locked in a closet with cockroaches without water and food. And then, all the way up into the restaurant where he almost gets his tongue cut out because he's asking for a glass of vintage wine. So it's things like that holds up so well in writing, and something that I aspire in my own work to do because it's so difficult to do that, to remember.
That scene at the beginning where you see him and his dad, I was like, why is this part of the movie? But it's a setup, and that, the fact that his dad is a plumber and he's around that all the time, like pays off later in the scripts. And I love when that happens.
Yeah.
It's
So good.
simple, but I feel like that it doesn't always go that way.
Yeah.
Well, you already kind of mentioned Mouth. Do you have a favorite of the Goonies?
I think I have like a soft spot for Mikey because he's like the leader, but he's so like kind and truly wants the best and to like keep this crew together. But I don't know. I love Data too because I love Ki-Han Q. Wonderful, wonderful actor. I'm so just happy to see that, he's gone on to do great things, especially in the last year. But yeah, I think I have to go with Mikey.
I don't know why, but I really love Sean Astin. I've loved him in everything I've seen him in, and I'm not like really into Lord of the Rings. I know that's probably one of the things he's best known for, but even before seeing this movie, he has like such just like a kindness about him. And I did end up doing some reading after watching this movie, and he is, he's very involved in charities, and he seems like he is an actual nice person. So that helps. But yeah, I thought that, his character was like such a sweetheart. And I absolutely would have had a crush on this kid if I had watched it like as a child.
Talking a little bit more about like character development, he has a lot of the cute quirks and side conversations between him and his brother, which I always really love that he like always makes, as we're talking about an eating dictionary, he always messes up his words. And it's just like kind of an ongoing joke throughout the whole movie, which works really well. But yeah, he was also in a season of Stranger Things. I don't know if you've watched that show at all, but he was great in that too. So I feel like it's kind of cool to see that he's gotten more adventure roles as an adult as well. Like Lord of the Rings came out a while ago, and then it kind of led him to one of the biggest TV shows, in the past 5 years or so. So it's just interesting. I love watching these movies and then seeing where they turn out.
I know we kind of already talked about like how good the dialogue was and how true it was, but another phrase that I love that he always said was he refers to it as rich.
Rich stuff?
Yeah, the rich stuff, which is such a cute phrase that a kid would use instead of just saying like, even instead of saying like, the treasure. But yeah, it's like the rich stuff because that's as far as his brain can go to know that they need something rich to like get out of this jam that his family is in.
Yeah. He also has such a good moment where he has his speech in the wishing well. And he like seems like such an adult in that part, but you still have like the childness of everything that he's saying. It's our time down here. Like, yeah, it is. It's your time. You got this, Mikey. Beyond the core four, I have such a crush on Josh Brolin in this movie. He is such a heartthrob, even in his incredible 80s outfit, but I just can't help but love him.
Yeah. He was also, I would have had a crush on him too. Being honest. But also fun to think of him. I know you're not really into like the MCU movies, but I think of him most recently as playing Thanos.
It's funny that he's supposed to come off as the bad, like the person who's like stopping them from going on this adventure in the beginning, and then he just morphs into this like adorable older brother. But I love the older brother character of him. He just plays it so well. What were you gonna say?
I must have like older sibling bias because I did not for 1 second think that he was being troublesome and trying to stop them. I was thinking like they're being so mean to him. Like I can't believe, I'm like, what did he do to deserve being like tied up and them taking the air out of his tires after he mowed all those lawns to get his bike? What the heck? That was a little over the top. Like, was it not?
A little over the top. I feel like I've brought this up on another podcast episode, but I think it just comes with the territory of being an oldest sibling, that I still have this memory of Michelle working on an art project where she needed to stencil draw a piece of crumpled up paper. And I thought it was just like a piece of paper that someone threw away. So I uncrumpled it and I started drawing on it because I was pretending that I was the kid from James and the Giant Peach. This is a very long story. And when he's like drawing in the inside of the chip bag, and I was pretending that I was drawing this beautiful
Makes sense.
painting. And Michelle was like, wow. You
I
didn't
did
actually
not say that.
You were pissed. You went to mom and dad and you were like, this little took my drawing and this is my art project. And I was like, I didn't know because it was a crumpled up piece of paper. So I get it. Michelle's just having a little bit of PTSD of needing to be the responsible one when her little siblings are messing up her papers.
I'm sure I used different wording.
Definitely use different wording, but I'm sorry to this day.
I forgive you.
Okay, so beyond I know we love talking about supporting roles on this podcast. What did we think of Mrs. Walsh, who standout role in the beginning? I love her.
A little aloof, but the actress was great.
A little aloof, but like that's perfect.
We need aloof parents, yeah.
Like it's, in Stranger Things, which is also an 80s time period, the parents are so aloof, and that's what makes it so much better because then they can just run free. What did we think of the villains in this movie?
Well, clearly they left an impression. I absolutely love them. The two brothers are like the quintessential idiot bad guy duo. The fact that one of them sings opera based on the fact that the actor was an opera singer, and that was kind of like something that he brought. I don't think that was in the script, but I'm like, this is like like a criminal who's an opera singer. Fantastic. And then having our boy Joe, I feel like, if at least for movie fans or anyone who listens to the Rewatchables, the Joey Pants Award is named after him. So like that is how I think of him being more famous for that now than like any movie that he's been in. And he truly was that guy, because I saw him come on screen. I'm like, is that actually Joey Pants of the Joey Pants Award? And it was.
Yeah, and talk about, again, just building the dynamic from the beginning. It's a pretty dark opening scene that we see.
Very dark. I was taken aback by that.
Yeah. But when they're getting in the car and they're having the argument that he can't open the door properly, we're just thrown right into the sibling dynamic of them continuously being dumb and fighting. I love the inclusion of when he comes back to the restaurant with the pizza and they're going to shoot each other over like a slice of pepperoni. So, oh my God, it works. It works really well. And I think one of my favorite things about when you find a good movie is the holistic cast really comes together, and there's not even like one person who's the glue. They all just work collaboratively to make it work.
And the mom was really scary. Great casting, great acting. And I love the idea of like this, like a mom being the ultimate villain in the story.
Well,
very
you
creative.
Play her well.
Thank you.
It definitely would have been more appropriate if you were dressed up like Josh Brolin, because we would have been the oldest and youngest.
Yeah. Then I'd have to get one of those like,
yeah,
was that like accordion Bowflex thing?
Yeah, Bowflex.
It wouldn't have been good on the mic.
You would have been tied to your chair too, which is not a good look for you.
Can we go back to the Mrs. Walsh for a second? Do you recognize her from another family favorite movie that we've not covered on the podcast?
I'm
sports related,
but I can't think of it.
I think that she is Ed O'Neill's wife in Little Giants.
Yes.
Does that track?
Oh my gosh, that definitely tracks. She's in a lot of movies, actually. Wow, that was a
small role, but
wow, she's in Back to the Future Part 2. Who knew?
What?
I think so.
Who was she in Back to the Future Part 2?
She's an uncredited officer.
Is she one of the ones who arrest young Jennifer, but they think that she's old Jennifer?
It might
when
be,
she's passed out.
I mean, if she's uncredited. I'm not seeing Little Giants on here.
Oh,
but
but
it's definitely her.
It's
her. Yes.
Okay.
I trust you. Oh God, we gotta cover that movie.
We
That is
do.
a
We're
good
going to need
one.
to do a
Oh,
little
we're gonna
sports run. Yeah. I mean,
a classic, a classic,
yeah.
a classic never dies. So I have a couple things in true lore fashion, getting into the deepness of the movie, but I love the like sense of place in this movie. I love the setting.
Love.
I personally love the Pacific Northwest, but I think one of my favorite shots or multiple shots is when they actually show like it's supposed to be like the Goon docks, like where they are above the water, just houses with like fog around it and having different shots of them, riding their bikes down the road to the beach and having all the trees. And I have a I have a soft spot for the Pacific Northwest. I just think it's such a beautiful place. But what a cool setting to shoot this movie because it's a little bit ominous. It's a little bit foggy. There's a lot of like adventure and uncertainty because most of it takes place underground. But I think being able to set it up, what's above it all, is really cool. And I know we talked a little bit about the opening scene, which takes place at the Walsh's house, but I love the set design and the details of their house because, again, it just paints such a picture of like the messiness, but the intricacies of who they are as a family, that they're clearly very curious. The dad works at a museum, he has a lot of things in the attic, but then they have a lot of like books, placed all around their house. And we know right away that the mom is very uptight with certain things around the house. And I think that they just use it so well as an extension of bringing us into the chaos, but the humanness of this group and why it's really so important to them, why they're going on this adventure to begin with. There's a lot of scenes in the restaurant too, which is like so gross and so creepy. But I also think that's another very like scary, uncertain setting that they built that's like abandoned and just waiting for someone to do something wrong in. And I thought it couldn't have been like a better place for them to start their adventure. And then I love that they just end up on the beautiful beaches of Oregon at the end, like coming out of the darkness and then leading them into being able to pay for their houses. So I just think it was good setting choices for me.
Really great setting choices. And you really understand, other than the fact that, no one wants to lose their home, but like why this community is really special. Like it's not just a regular neighborhood. Like this place looks different from like a typical Americana setting that we see in a lot of movies. The fact
Yeah.
that we get that fog and we get the greenery and we get the beach and even just the style of home, it's not, over the top, it's not pretentious, but it is really beautiful
Yeah.
and it's
It
unique.
really is. I would place myself in that neighborhood in another life.
Riding on that porch.
Yes. I talked a little bit about character development, but the dialogue and the comedy unmatched. I think this is a movie where it can, like, even comparing to Jurassic Park and Raiders of the Lost Ark, those are a little bit more adventure and plot heavy, where you're so drawn in by the crazy things going on. But I think the reason why I've always loved this movie so much is because I've always been drawn to comedies. And the writing in this is so funny. Like it's so good. And it's for kids to be able to bring out a lot of laughs in you feels very innocent in a way, but they because of their age groups and that they're edging on like the age of their I don't know, they must be like what 11, 12 are supposed to
Yeah, I
be. So
think
they're
maybe
they're
like late middle
preteen.
school. Yeah.
So it's kind of like they have like dirty jokes in their vocabulary and understanding, and maybe are a little bit older than in mind than their actual ages, but I just love it. There's so many like funny lines that I repeat, so I'm excited to go through that section a little bit later. Great script writing.
It is. And I'll use this as an opportunity to talk a little bit about Steph's character because when I watched this the first time, I was so annoyed by her. And I think I remember saying to Jimmy, like, what? Like, what is her deal? Why is her character so annoying? But I'm now seeing that kind of like the reflection thing. And this time rewatching it, I'm like, I don't know why I thought that. I'm like, she's great. She's one of the most entertaining characters in the movie. And I think probably the reflection was kind of seeing that, you know, she is kind of a smart ass. She does kind of like yell at people for like, you know, doing the right thing or doing the wrong thing, which I was probably seeing a little of me in that. And I really enjoyed her character. And I haven't seen that actress, you know, grown-up actress in many things, but there's something about her that makes me, whatever I've seen her in, I must have really liked because I feel like she seems like the type of person that can like play a sarcastic character really well.
Yeah. I also, in another life, would love to see just a movie with her and Mouth. It may
Yes,
be
definitely.
way overdone, but they bounce off. They complement each other very well.
Great chemistry between
But
those
she
two
also
actors.
could play. I recently saw her in a really sad movie called Mass, which came out a couple years ago, and she used to play a very serious role, and she's great in that too. So
She's
she's
a
got some
talented
range.
actress. Yeah.
Yeah, but mentioned this at the top, but just the inclusion of Andy and Steph rounded out the group so well. Like it was already strong without them, and then kind of just throwing them into the mix made it even better.
And I also think that this is the kind of thing when I was talking about like never experiencing even really like a situation like this where it was like a group of guys and girls together at this age, I think is something that I'm like, like I wish I could have experienced something like this as a kid.
Yeah. What did you think of the booty traps? Did you have any favorite ones? You know, they say booby or booty traps.
Can you give me an example of one? Did I completely space out on these or am I just not knowing what you're talking
Just
about?
like the different levels of the adventure when they're underground.
Of the things that happened when they were underground?
Yeah, like do you have any one that you enjoyed watching most, or maybe one that you would choose between all of them if you were personally thrown into this group?
Why don't you
You're like, what the F is a booby
why
trap?
don't you give me yours? Almost
Okay.
give me some inspo.
I would have to go with the piano one because I grew up playing the piano. I feel like I would have been nominated, but I would have been way too nervous to kill everyone. But I think if I had to pick one, it would be that one.
Okay. I think I'm just picturing like a lot of like rocks blowing up and stuff.
I thought you were going to say I would choose none of them and just hang out in the wishing well.
Oh yeah,
And
I
you
would
would
do that.
you would leave. You would have left. Yeah.
I would have hopped in that
Troy's
bucket
bucket.
and I would have been like, Troy, I'm keeping your sweater. Where's your car? Let's get out of here.
When the crew gets all the treasure, Michelle still has to move away.
Yeah,
So
but I'll be dating Troy, so I think I'll be okay.
I don't know. You really want to be climbing up Troy's bucket? I don't think so. Any bad notes on this movie?
Any bad notes? Andy's character, you know,
Right out.
she's like they don't really give her the chance to like share opinions about things. In contrast to Steph, she's kind of both uninteresting and they're making her a character that I think that we have now moved past and have left in the past.
They could have given her more to work with. So, and it's sad because she comes off as so obnoxious because she just brings nothing to the group. But I will say she's a character that like doesn't annoy me enough that I wouldn't want her in the movie. So that's a good sign.
Yeah, and I didn't find her to be annoying. I felt bad that character, if that character was written today, she would be like a much stronger female presence. And then the sloth thing, just the idea of having, I know that they made him, you know, essentially into a cartoon, but you know, the thought of having someone with, you know, any kind of impairment and like locking them away is is horrifying.
Yeah.
And did happen. So at that time, and throughout history. So that was a little unsettling. But, I get that it's a movie. But again, if this was made today, I'm hopeful that maybe they would have done something a little different.
Yeah, I almost feel like why do we need like the insane cartoonishness of Sloth? Like, couldn't it have just been like a villain on the like who ends up like a third brother, but ends up like helping them, who is just like funny or crazy? I don't know. There could have just
Yeah.
been a different way to write it. And I had a lot of problems with, it's weird growing up because like the truffle shuffle is such like a
Hmm.
well-known scene, but there were just like it's so distasteful to like talk about body imaging and just making
Yes.
fun of a kid for being fat. Like it just does not hold up well at all. And the movie didn't need it. Like there's a way to just portray Chunk's characters being a little bit more aloof and crazy and lying about stuff without needing to poke fun at anyone for looking, quote unquote different.
Hmm.
So I just, again, I'm happy that we're doing a little bit better in films, but it felt very unnecessary. Every time I watch it, I'm like, why is this included?
And it's like cheap, really, really cheap laughs.
Yeah.
And I like, the fact that, I think for the most part we've moved past that and are now finding like actual funny, creative ways to make jokes without poking at people's differences.
I did hint that I was very excited for this section, but I want to start with you. What is your favorite scene and
Oh,
favorite line? And
okay.
you go both.
Favorite scene, hands down to me, was riding down the water slides into the boat scene or into the ship scene. I thought that it was so fun and it lasted so much longer than I thought that it would. They really like, I don't know if this was the case watching it in the 80s on, a small screen, but, watching it on my big TV, I was like, this is amazing and this is awesome. And all the movies that we're covering in this season have some sort of theme park connection or an attraction that was created from it, except for this movie. And when I saw that scene, I was just wondering, where's our Goonies world? Where's our Goonies attraction or water park slide? Because I feel like they have so many like fun elements to work with, and I would love to experience it.
Are you sure?
Yes, I want to go on the Goonies slide.
I highly doubt that. I wholeheartedly disagree with you. You would go to a water park and go down one of those slides.
If it was Goonies themed, I think that I would.
Like you
Yeah.
would put on a swimsuit and go down one of
Like,
those.
wait a minute. You own a bathing suit.
You own a bathing suit and Michelle does not even like going to the beach, let alone a water park. So I am putting a pin in her comment right now. I think if it was like a log ride, yes.
A
Anything that you
flume.
don't have to, yeah. Like you're not showing up to an
I've been
amusement park with a
on water slides before.
when.
I've been to Blizzard Beach. I've been to Typhoon Lagoon. I've been to what's our water park near our house in
Mountain
New
Creek.
Jersey. I've been to Mountain Creek. I've been to Mountain Creek like as an adult, and I participated.
Wow. This is brand new information for
Yeah,
me. You won't even
I am
step
a
on green grass when
I
it's
am
raining,
a
so
water park adventurer.
wow. Even post COVID, because I'm not. I am done with water parks. I went to like Great Wolf Lodge when I was younger, which is like an indoor
Oh
water
no,
park.
no, 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 not nothing
But like
inside.
what
Yeah,
even makes it better? Like what is the difference? I mean,
no,
it's all gross.
no.
Hurricane Harbor.
I am with you. Kind of, it falls in our ball pit category. It is kind of gross, but I do remember having fun at the water parks that I have been to, and I can see this experience. A
We do
Goonies themed water slide, I think, would be a lot of fun.
see, I was having that scene was so fun, but those slides and like I would go in them when I was younger all the time. Scary. It's like, what if you get stuck in one of those? you
Well,
know?
I'll never go in the
Like one of
ones that
the
are like completely like where you're in
closed.
like a tube. Yeah, like not that you're
Yeah.
riding in a tube, but the whole thing is like enclosed like a pipe.
Yeah.
But these seems like kind of open, like high ceiling, open air.
I mean,
No,
they're underground, so I feel like it was, but it did. The shots
it
definitely
didn't
made
feel
it.
claustrophobic. Yeah.
It didn't. I wonder how they shot those scenes because it looked like a blast.
I heard on a podcast about Goonies that it was some kind of like surfing facility let them use them for the shoot.
Wow. Okay, we want to hear some listener engagement on this. Would you rather go in a ball pit or on a slide at your local water park? We want to know what's worse or what you would prefer. You got to pick your poison. I honestly, oh, I don't even know. I think I would go with the water slide.
Yeah,
But like you can't really die in a ball pit. Like you can die in a water slide,
you
which
can.
is,
It
kind of
would have to
spooky.
be open air water slide for me. If it was
Okay.
closed, I would pick the ball pit.
I am shocked. I actually thought that you were going to say, like, I absolutely hate water slides. And I hated that scene because it
No,
was giving me
it
PTSD.
looks so fun.
Wow.
Maybe this
This is
is
a new,
just
this is a new
80s. This
Michelle.
is 80s
80s
me
Michelle.
talking. Yeah.
I just think the funniest scene is which is terrifying because it's also like a fear of mine, like getting my hand sliced off. But the scene where they're holding Chunk's fist over the blender and he's telling them his life story. I mean, I think that doubles
Fantastic.
with some of my favorite, that entire sequence. I actually remember, maybe I'll post a screenshot of this. I wrote that entire dialogue out on Erica's Facebook wall once, and it was amazing. And then I also just like the opening. I like when they're all sitting in the living room and they break the penis off the statue. I think that's a great a great scene. And when they first meet Mrs. Fratelli, Mama Fratelli, and they're like sitting at the table. I just like all of those different moments. Also, when Chunk gets stuck in the freezer with the dead body, with the stiff. What about favorite line for you?
It's when
Martin Sheen. Martin Sheen, that's President Kennedy, you idiot! Was that different? I mean, he played Kennedy once. Oh, that's really smart. I'm glad to know you're using your brain. Yeah.
the deep, reference and knowledge that these kids have of movies, which, maybe is true, but, feels very much just kind of like a little bit of an inside joke, which I always love in
Yeah.
movies.
It almost reminds me of the moment when in Back to the Future when he says Jerry Lewis, which we will get into later in the season. Yeah, just going off staff quotes, I think one of my favorite ones is I feel like I'm babysitting, but I'm not getting paid. I just think it's so clever.
Love that.
I also love the entire sequence, which I mentioned earlier, of Mouth talking about what he would order from if they were actually at an Italian restaurant.
Yes.
And says it in his Italian accent.
I want the Villa Scallopini. I want a fettuccine Alfredo. A bottle of fettuccine in 1981.
I always laugh at when Mouth is saying the translation in Spanish and he says, sin agua y comida. Like, you're going to have to be locked in this closet without water and food. Another scene that I really loved, there's not that much dialogue, but it also reminded me of another like soft spot in Jaws where we kind of just get this like no dialogue cute moment. But when Mikey is standing out on the porch in the rain and it's very dramatic and Bran comes out and hugs him and they just have this brotherly moment, and then 5 minutes later he betrays him and
Yeah.
ties him to a chair. But so cute. And that is one of the moments that I always remember watching with Aunt Amanda, because she would always go aw, because his feet drags like when he's
Aw.
pulling him inside, which is really cute. I could have done without the Andy and Mikey kissing scene. That scene always grosses me out a little bit.
Yeah.
But other than that, lots of tender moments in this movie. Any more lines for you?
I think I liked when Chunk said, I hate nature. I hate nature.
That is you.
And
Um,
is it Mama Fratelli? Does she say, I can smell their bubble gum?
yes.
That's a great villain line.
I always think it's cute when Bran says, "I'm going to the men's room," and then the guys are like, "They're like, where are you going?" They're like, "We're going to the men's room too." Yeah, I just love the idea that they call a dead body a stiff because the scene where Chunk is saying they got Mississippi mud and chocolate eruption and they got what? And he's like staring at all of them and he goes, "It's a stiff."
What did this movie make you want to eat?
Well, for all those of you not watching on video, my name is Baby Ruth. This episode definitely makes me want to have a chocolate bar and like a Pepsi. Maybe not together, but within the same day. I don't really know if I even like Baby Ruths. Like, I can't remember the last time I had one, but I'm not a big whole peanut fan in my candy. So, but I think it just made me want to have a chocolate bar. Lots of ice cream, but maybe not ones that have been like sitting in the freezer. I'm picturing that ice cream with like frostbite on it. Made me want to have some dirty tap water for sure. That brown tap water that they're drinking. No champagne in this movie.
That's right. My champagne theory,
New
it's
champagne theories
debunked
out. But you know what I
immediately.
like to think? After they find the treasure, I like to think that the parents drank champagne when they got home to
Probably.
celebrate.
I do love that Chunk's family had a pizza at the like the recovery site because our family would do that.
Yes, 100%. Also kind of made me want to have a greasy slice of pepperoni, but when am I not craving that? I think it's this nostalgia of being a kid and playing outside, but Chunk says like, "Come on, Mikey, like it's late, it's dinner time, like our parents are waiting." And it just reminded me of being a kid and being at my friend's house and like, oh, it's like mom called, it's dinner time, we have to go home and having like a weeknight dinner, whatever that is. So maybe that will fold into our dinner party idea for this episode. But what about you?
Just even that phrase, like, I gotta be home for dinner. Do kids have that anymore? They must.
I don't think so.
Kids don't play anymore.
I don't think they really know.
Before we even decided that we were going to watch this week, I've been watching this silly documentary series on Disney Plus called, I don't even remember what it's called, but it's about the 80s. Rob Lowe hosts it. It's each episode is on like a top 10 list of things in the 80s, and they have one about like 80s food. So they have like Hot Pockets, they have Big Macs, they talk about Happy Meals, and it's all like gross food that you would never want, but also you want it. And that's kind of how I felt about watching this movie. I just, something you can put in the microwave.
Hot Pocket.
I don't even know that I've ever had a Hot Pocket in my life, but sure, I'll try one. Yeah, Pepsi. Why is Pepsi so associated with the 80s? Or in my head, it is.
Because I think that's a time where there was a lot of like TV commercials. I always just think of like the throwback Pepsi can.
Yeah.
And it really makes me, I haven't had a Pepsi in a while.
Yeah.
I had a Dr. Pepper at In-N-Out the other day.
Oh, love Dr. Pepper. Love.
Fantastic. All right, another audience engagement question. What is like your favorite nostalgic soda?
Yeah, other than that, I wrote down a note. Did someone do like a whip it at
Yes,
some point?
Chunk is pouring whipped cream into his mouth when he's depressed because they have to give up the house. Full transparency, I used to do that all the time when I was younger. I used to just go into our fridge. We had Kirkland brand whipped cream from Costco. I used to give myself a little bit of whipped cream all the time when I was just looking for a snack. That's another nostalgic thing that I miss, which I feel like I've kind of brought back now that I work from home, is like going to snack like after school when you
After
get
school
home.
snacks? Yeah.
And you were like, what are we having right now? Lisa, I think I've also brought this up in another episode. You know what it is? I think it was on the Napoleon Dynamite episode because they make nachos. But Lisa was always down when we got home from school. She would make a nice like nachos spread, and we'd have sour cream and salsa. And now I really want nachos.
And yeah, even though there was the stiff in there in the ice cream freezer, I did oddly want to be with a shelf in front of me of like all different kinds of like pints of hard ice cream.
What do we think that Mississippi Mud was?
Mississippi Mud, I think, is like a chocolate base.
Yeah, I'm almost thinking like a grass hop. I don't know, like very like fudge and like ice cream with chocolate ice cream with fudge in it.
Yeah,
Right?
and maybe like, how do we not know this? Like maybe like a caramel swirl in there? This needs to be fact checked immediately.
This is the Baskin Robbins description.
Okay.
Rich and premium chocolate ice cream with brownie cake bits, all coated in rich milk chocolate. That makes sense.
Okay. Not a flavor I would go for, but
I'm not like a big chocolate ice cream fan,
No,
but
me either.
lately I've been getting into it. There is this amazing brand that I think it's more California based. It's like a California creamery called Strauss. And they just have like great like chocolate and vanilla ice cream, and it's a great pint to have. Put some like strawberries on top of there. Fantastic. We love our ice cream equally as we love our champagne, which is, you know, we didn't get the champagne in this movie, but we got a lot of ice cream. So
I'm with you
we
though.
feel
I think
good.
it was happening off screen.
I think it
I mean,
was.
the dad's like, he probably has a dusty bottle somewhere, like a vintage he's been saving.
Yes. He's like, kids, you can have a sip because
Yeah.
we're staying put. So this is going to be a fun dinner party. I'm liking the setting of doing it like at one of their houses. Maybe we say the Walshes because it's the only one that we can actually picture, but like a weeknight dinner. So it's not really, it's like a dinner party, but it's kind of a regular affair at the Walsh house. Keep it clean with this season. We'll come up with a dinner party together.
Okay.
Sadly, we don't really have that many animals or, you know, mythical creatures to include in this one. So we may have to stick to humans only.
I mean, we can bring One-Eye Willie.
We could bring One-Eye Willie.
Let's keep this alive, humans only.
Okay. But maybe they bring one. They probably won't want to move One-Eye Willie because the ship imploded, but they could bring a skeleton along if they wanted to, because the dad might want to put it in the museum after.
Oh, that's true.
They're along for the ride.
He could sit on the couch with the statue with the backwards penis.
Yes.
Yeah.
We like this. Let's do 4
Okay.
people this time.
Yeah, I'm
I picked
picturing
2,
like a
you
little,
picked 2.
like a round table with 4 chairs.
Yes.
Okay.
Perfect. I think I'm gonna go with the older Fratelli brother and Mouth, because he's a just obnoxious, awful, but perfect dinner companion.
And I'm going to bring Rosalita and Troy.
Okay. This is a difficult
This
one.
is a
I feel like
town
there's
gathering.
A lot of different personalities.
A lot of languages.
There's a lot of languages, a lot of singing.
But we have Mouth there, so he can do all the translations for
We do.
Rosalita.
Okay, so because we've been talking so much about Pepsi, this dinner party is sponsored by Pepsi, said by us. We're going to have vintage Pepsi for everyone. Not even water. That's
Yeah, no
you
water.
know,
They
our-
didn't drink water in
that's-
1985.
They didn't drink water, and no, they were not having jugs of water in the 80s. But I do think that Jake is gonna want some type of vintage wine, like
Yeah, oh,
something
definitely.
that him and his fellow opera singers drink together. So I'm genuinely just thinking like a dusty bottle of like Cabernet Sauvignon. And Mouth is like trying to have some.
Yeah. But Rosalita won't let anyone else. She'll have
No.
some.
She might. I don't know.
I think you don't think she drinks?
She may drink after the day that she's had at the Walshes. She has done
She
a lot of
definitely
packing.
deserves
She's
a
been
drink.
threatened. She's apparently, directly correlated with a drug ring now, sex toys, cockroaches. There's a lot going on for her. So she deserves a glass, even
Yeah.
if she's not going to have it. So I think we're good on beverages. I think Troy would try and like sneak into the liquor cabinet.
Yeah.
Because he's a troublemaker, but also like make fun of them for their liquor choices or he may be more of like a beer drinker, but we're only serving him Pepsi at this party. For food, I'm struggling with this one because we have a big group. I think that we have Mouth, who would be happy with like a hot pocket, but then we have like Troy, who's gonna be super stuck up about what he's making. Like I could see his parents having like a live-in chef, and I could see Rosalita like making like a family recipe for everyone, but like only making it for herself. So,
I don't want her to have to cook. She's already had to do so much.
no.
Yeah.
No. But I'm saying like
in general,
if it came down to that, like she would do, and she would just make herself dinner because she's not dealing with these kids. And Jake kind of seems like more of just like a pizza and spaghetti with like big meatballs. So I don't know. I almost feel like a spaghetti with meatball dinner could really,
I think that
like,
could work.
Appeal to this group. But I'm talking about like not really like good quality spaghetti with meatballs. You know, like picture what if you were seeing like a commercial for like a tomato sauce,
Like a Prego,
like in the 80s with like very big meatballs and just like
an unhealthy size.
yeah. Remember like when we used to go to Buca di Beppo back in the day?
Yeah.
Like their spaghetti with meatballs, not too bad, by the way. That's what I'm picturing.
Okay, I like this. Do we want to start with a Hot Pocket appetizer?
Yeah, but like bites. Like instead
Bites.
of having,
I feel like we could make it gourmet. Like if we're
Yeah.
catering this event, we could like use the Hot Pockets as a base, make them bite size, and then make some sort of like. Do they have like different kinds of Hot Pockets, or do they only have
the Hot Pocket that I'm thinking of is more like, or this is what I'm guessing, but I feel like they probably have like a ham and cheese one.
Why don't we do that with like creamy
Yes.
Dijon dipping sauce?
We like this. Yeah, but it'll be like on little bites, maybe some like toothpicks involved.
Yeah.
So it's great. Pairs well, like with the greasiness pairs well with the Pepsi too.
Yes.
What else are we going to make for them?
Garlic bread? You made garlic bread when you were visiting me, right? Didn't we make garlic bread together?
Yes,
I
we
think that
did.
was the last time I had it.
I feel like we made like a chicken parm. I
Yeah.
keep thinking of veal parm because of Mouth's description. Like I just have that in my mind. So maybe we're getting fancy and having a veal parm.
We could do that.
Okay. So veal parm
and meatballs and
spaghetti and meatballs. These are growing boys. They're hungry.
That's true.
And Rosalita's had a long day. Jake is wanted for murder. This may be his last
that's
meal
true.
outside
Okay.
of jail. Okay, we have Hot Pockets to start off.
No vegetables.
No veg with this group. For dessert, I have ice cream on my mind, but this is because when I went to Oregon and I was in Portland, and I don't know if this movie takes place in Portland. One of my favorite meals that I had, which I truly think about all the time, is at this restaurant, and they had amazing toast with like strawberries on it because they like freshly picked these strawberries in whatever farm that they were working with. So I'm just thinking, so they're not having veg, but maybe they're having like a strawberry ice cream with like actual chunks of strawberry in it.
That sounds wonderful. And I feel like that would it would be one of those things where it's like such a good dessert and it's so simple and it would shut everybody up.
Yes. Like everyone's friends by the end.
Yeah, they'd
like,
just be enjoying it.
Jake and Rosalita are like, buddy. Yep. They're having a great time. I feel like he speaks Italian, so he's speaking in Italian, she's speaking in Spanish, and they understand each other. Somehow Mouth and Troy have become friends. Mouth has his varsity jacket on.
Yep.
They've gone to that level, and they're all eating ice cream together. It's a great dinner party.
I think that sounds great. We have 2 or do we have 3 movies left in our series?
I believe we have 3 left.
Okay.
I am the keeper of the schedule, and the keeper of the schedule is incompetent today because she doesn't know which one we're doing next. but I'm going to pick this on the fly.
Okay.
Next week, we're going to be watching E.T.
E.T., that's the one that I had forgotten about. Okay.
Definitely one of the most well-known and classics of the Spielberg bunch that we're going to be covering this season. But get your bikes ready. We're going to be out of this world. It's going to be great.